12 nightmarish Lovecraftian monsters who define cosmic horror. It takes a special skill to imagine a terrifying entity and introduce it into a well-bound storyline. Notable horror writer H.P. Lovecraft excelled in this territory with his brand of unique deities that defined cosmic horror. Many critics are of the opinion that he had a well-formed fictional universe where he would imagine these nightmarish monsters to exist. Others feel that there is no such continuity between them and that they just helped him add to his spooky storytelling. Either way, these Lovecraftian monstrosities have given us some memorable shock moments, sometimes in movies and other times in the eerie storytelling of Lovecraft. In this video, we will take a look at some of the creatures that will induce the most frightening nightmare you ever had. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. NYARLATHOTEP. Popularly known by the name, the Crawling Chaos, NYARLATHOTEP is said to be the spawn of AZATHOTH and was first introduced in the prose poem of the same name. Ever since his inception, Lovecraft has used him in several subsequent tales. Even other authors have borrowed him for their storylines. The Crawling Chaos is an outer god, but unlike most of the outer gods who are exiled to the stars, this mighty beast walks the earth in a vaguely human form. He is a shapeshifter with thousands of appearances, but he is mostly seen as a tall, lean man with no trace of hair or beard. He resembles an Egyptian pharaoh draped in a black gown and uses human language in contrast to the other gods who speak some form of alien language. The scariest feature of this monster is that it can easily pass off for a human, making it tough to detect him. Some of the storylines suggest that NYARLATHOTEP seeks to destroy the earth and all of humanity. However, we generally see him keener on spreading madness and chaos than causing death and destruction. Lovecraft first introduced him as someone who travels through the earth and gathers followers by the display of his magical powers. The followers then lose awareness of their surroundings and become a mind-controlled member of his army. Lovecraft later stated that the inspiration for NYARLATHOTEP was a terrible nightmare that he had, which was strangely detailed and vivid. YOG-SOTHOTH. The Outer God is an integral part of Cthulhu mythos. He is one of the ancestors of Cthulhu and has had multiple appearances. Though numerous authors have given different takes on him, all iterations have maintained the same appearance of a mass of glowing spheres. Some versions describe these as eyes, while others ascertain them as organic orbs. We can comprehend the powers of most monsters created by Lovecraft, but when it comes to YOG-SOTHOTH, his powers are a bit too godly for our liking. It is believed that he is an omniscient being and everything in the domain of space and time is known to him. He is first introduced in the case of Charles Dexter Ward, where he is said to have fathered twins with a human. He can be summoned for certain rituals, and there are some harrowing plots that start off like this, notably the Dunwich Horror, which thrives on the mystifying powers of YOG-SOTHOTH, including that of resurrecting the dead. Like most of the terrifying monsters created by Lovecraft, YOG-SOTHOTH seeks to rule the universe and is constantly expanding his influence by entering various dimensions. However, it is important to note that he is probably among the less vicious ones and is not all about ripping apart humans. YGOLANAK. Also referred to as the Great Old One, YGOLANAK doesn't have one true appearance. It is believed that he lies in deep slumber in one of the ancient subterranean caverns, the location of which is unknown to the world. It can, however, possess a mortal creature and manifest itself as an obese, headless man with mouths in his palms. When it comes to such higher monsters, it is often the case that they are unable to understand the minds of lesser beings. YGOLANAK is an exception, and he could use his host to conduct lucid conversations. YGOLANAK is also called the Defiler because he is the god of depravity and perversion. He seeks absolute control over his followers, who worship him for his immense knowledge in degenerate practices. He can sink to morbid lows that the human mind cannot even imagine. He can be summoned through either an individual who harbors evil thoughts in his mind, or via reading from the occult text, the revelations of GLAAKI. YGOLANAK is eternally hungry, and when summoned, usually consumes the person who beckoned him. We first found mention of this Lovecraftian monster in the story Cold Print, where we see him take control of a bookstore after murdering the owner and taking his skin. He was seen later in the works of Daniel Hams and Richard Watts. YIBB. YIBB happens to be the father of serpents, and the infamous snake god is another mighty beast in the Cthulhu mythos. He is somewhat reptilian, resembling a scaly humanoid creature with the arms of a man. As the guardian and lord of snakes everywhere, he is strongly devoted to these creatures and treats them as his children. He goes into hibernation and emerges every autumn to punish those who harm serpents during his absence. The punishment is severe, and the victim is either turned into a viper or simply killed by other deadly asps in their sleep. The origin of YIBB is rather intriguing, as he was said to be ruling the Crimson Cavern of Yoth, where he and his mate, Coatlicue, were worshipped by the denizens. However, it all changed after YIBB placed his curse upon them. There are numerous spooky stories that explore the horrors that can be unleashed by YIBB. One of these tales takes place in Arkansas, where a woman is goaded into killing baby rattlesnakes because her husband is petrified of them. During the fall that year, YIBB seeks revenge, tricking her into killing her own husband with an axe. He then transforms her into a disgusting half-man, half-reptile atrocity, and she is cursed to remain in that form for all eternity. Outside of Lovecraftian stories, YIBB has appeared in several other platforms, including board games. AZATHOTH. If the outer gods are so scary, how intimidating is their ruler? AZATHOTH is the monstrosity that the leader of the mad gods should be. He is rightly seen as the symbol of primordial chaos and is related to some of the meanest behemoths in the Cthulhu mythos, such as YOG-SOTHOTH and Cthulhu. The first recorded mention of AZATHOTH is strangely in a note Lovecraft wrote to himself, stating that AZATHOTH is a hideous name. Like many other iconic beasts created by Lovecraft, this one too finds detailed mention in his letters. He wrote to Frank Belknap Long detailing the horrors of this monster and linking it to a novel by William Beckford that narrated the story of a supernatural caliph. Later we find mention of AZATHOTH in Lovecraft's own The Whisper in Darkness and The Dreams in the Witch House. It is mighty tough to describe him because every individual views it in a different form. He is ever-changing, and his physical manifestation is continuous with a spot in the center of the galaxy. His followers and worshippers perform some unspeakable practices that include obscene rites involving still living victims. The vicious torture and horrors translate into love for this deranged being who is a serious contender for one of Lovecraft's favorite monsters. DAGON. DAGON is a gigantic fish-like monstrosity that stands well over 50 feet in height. It has an uncanny resemblance with the aquatic creatures known as the Deep Ones, containing gills and a slimy scaled hide for its skin. Many people believe that DAGON is actually the Great Old One, while others feel that he is a regular Deep One grown to insane proportions. DAGON is an oceanic god, worshipped alongside the Great Cthulhu and Mother Hydra. It exists somewhere in the Pacific Ocean along the east of Java, and there are many stories penned down about him. Its worshippers are a cult, and over the years the size of this cult has grown considerably smaller and more secretive. A government operation was hatched to destroy the trio of the Great Old Ones, including DAGON, Mother Hydra, and Cthulhu. However, the mission failed, and all three managed to escape out of it alive. It is believed that the inspiration for this grotesque monster came to Lovecraft from an ancient deity found after excavations of the Mesopotamian civilization. The deity was apparently of the same name and was worshipped as the lord of fishing and fertility. You will find indirect references to DAGON in popular movies and shows like The Witcher and Game of Thrones. SHOGGOTH. Every time you think that you have seen enough of the Cthulhu mythos, Lovecraft springs up another surprise. SHOGGOTHs are amorphous creatures that were genetically engineered by the Elder Things to serve as their servants. They were intended to be mindless, but things didn't exactly go according to plan, as soon these creatures gained sentience and rose against their masters. They were ultimately responsible for the extinction of the Elder Things and can now be found in some isolated localities around the world. It is tough to give you an exact description of a shape-shifting monster, but shoggoths are usually seen as shapeless blobs of gelatinous flesh. You could imagine something like a giant amoeba to give you an idea. They can change their bodies into whatever they want and move at breathtaking speeds. The manner of their attacks is also something unique because they envelop their victims and use a suction force to decapitate them. In fact, this is how they fought back against their masters. A very strange feature of this monster is its eerie cry that is similar to a penguin crying out in a shrill voice. Often allying with the Deep Ones, the Shoggoths were first seen in the story at the Mountain of Madness, and since then have been referenced in the works of prominent authors. KASSOGTHA. One of the great old ones, KASSOGTHA is popularly depicted as the sister and second bride of the mighty Cthulhu. Being a writhing mass of tentacles, she might not appear as menacing as some of the other gods, but she can sure cause as much harm by trapping her victims within the extended appendages. She also has a set of sharp teeth that can rip through her victims. Once trapped, there is no escape. KASSOGTHA is one of the most violent gods in the Cthulhu mythos, with even Cthulhu having some trouble subduing her before he could proceed with the mating rituals. She poisons the water that she resides in, a quality that has earned her the title Leviathan of Diseases. She first appeared in a story titled Nightmarish Disciple, and there have been multiple storylines since then that have elaborated on her powers and origins. She can also be summoned to Earth, but the process involves a complex ritual of death, sex, and a mysterious chant from Fu Shenzu's texts. Lovecraft's source of inspiration while creating KASSOGTHA is unknown, but it could very well be another one of his hauntingly vivid nightmares. Cthulhu. This fictional cosmic god was first introduced to us in the short story titled The Call of Cthulhu. He is considered to be one of the great old ones and has been the most popularly known creation amongst all the myths spawned by Lovecraft. Besides appearing in several stories and movies, he has been an integral part of popular culture, inspiring many other monstrous entities. As per the design envisioned by Lovecraft, Cthulhu is a gigantic octopus-like beast with the features of a dragon and human in the same physique. He has a rubbery-looking body with scales and deadly claws that make his hind and forefeet potential weapons. Cthulhu stands hundreds of meters tall and has webbed human arms and legs that complement its hideous appearance. This god is a manifestation of chaos and destruction and has lived from times since when humans did not even exist. After his introduction, Cthulhu was seen in a popular role-playing game, and soon his detailing began to take shape. When we hear stories about Lovecraft having disturbing dreams and visions that led to the ideas behind the monsters, it comes as no surprise because no one in their normal mind could imagine something as horrendous as Cthulhu. Migo. A type of fungal life form, these monsters have a small antenna atop their bodies with multiple limbs and giant insect wings. These insectoid monsters can travel through space at great speeds, but the atmospheric conditions slow it down considerably. Migos are incredibly hostile to humans, but luckily few of them can actually be found on Earth. According to the Cthulhu mythos, the Migo have established a colony on a planet named YOG-SOTHOTH, which is right outside our solar system. The ones on Earth repeatedly send human samples to YOG-SOTHOTH, but it is not known why these creatures perform such activities. Their homeworld has many designs that can be used to conduct certain rituals mentioned in the Necronomicon. They also hold the strange ability to detect any similar design created by humans, resulting in them attacking and exterminating these defilers along with any copies they possess. You cannot photograph these creatures because they are made of an alien matter that reflects light differently than we know. It is amusing how the Migo can communicate by changing the color of their heads, but their vicious attacks are no joking matter. GLAAKI. This aquatic monster is said to dwell in a lake near Bridchester in England. Originating on Earth after a meteor that imprisoned him crashed and landed, he was released on the impact and has taken refuge in the lake since then. This ancient monster is a great old one and has a wealth of incredible knowledge about all the other beings in the region. He enjoys a cult following wherein his followers worship his sorcery knowledge, with them even having a holy book, the Revelations of GLAAKI. The appearance of GLAAKI is enough to send shivers down your spine, possessing a creepy slug-like body covered in metallic spines, along with deadly tentacles at the tips of his eyes. This allows him to check out his surroundings while still remaining underwater. Is GLAAKI vicious? Well, so far nothing has been known on that because of his minimal interactions with humans. YIBB-TSLL. Also known as the Patient One, YIBB-TSLL is an obscure godly entity. It watches the universe from the center and is among the wisest monsters, with only YOG-SOTHOTH being more enlightened. The exact appearance of YIBB-TSLL is a mystery, but it is sometimes described as a tentacled beast with an odd alien head. The detached eyes add to its mortifying look, and according to some accounts, this monster is fairly immobile. Under its large bat wings, there are innumerable nightgowns that suck black milk from its numerous breasts. YIBB-TSLL has a strange power that resides in his blood, the black. It could be used to smother the victims as it takes the form of dark snowflakes that stick to him. If this mighty god touches humans, it could be fatal, but on rare occasions, it could also be beneficial. We got a taste of him in the horror at Oakdean, and later in the Collar of the Black. All we can vouch for is that you certainly don't want YIBB-TSLL in your nightmares ever. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.